Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. This video we're going to move on and look at another Weatherlight MTGO deck, and this time it's going to be Dead and Alive, which is a mono-black deck. Let's take a look at the deck list. So we've got 23 creatures, 5 sorceries, 4 instants, 4 enchantments, and 24 land. We've got mana curve off to the side there, so let's just dive in and start looking at it. So one of the rares in the deck is Morinfen. So 3 and double black for 5/4 with Flier, and it has cumulative upkeep, pay 1 life. This is man, like if you're like a newish player these days, and like this is what we had to put up. This is what counted as a legendary creature like back in the day, right? It's like slightly better than Air Elemental, but the downside is you have to keep paying life to keep it around. It's like I know it's like in black, and like black didn't have like super good like flying creatures like this at the time, so obviously it had like this downside that was for the time like appropriate and like in color, but man, it's rough, isn't it? But yeah, it's just 5 mana for 5/4 flyer. Yeah, it's fine. Doesn't really particularly do anything great with the deck. Actually, I lie there, because there is like a big reanimation theme of the deck, so I suppose you could say this is like something that like you could reanimate into like late game and like win the game before like that cumulative upkeep becomes a problem, I suppose. Interesting trivia is that Morinfen is part of a duo with Gallowbraid, who is exactly the same. It's like a 5/4, but with trample, and I think the cumulative upkeep is also like pay a life as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but again, like I've sort of said in like previous ones of previous videos where like we've had like legendary creatures or like certain like iconic cards. Again, I think it's just something that's like got a real potential for something to get like reimagined and updated with new design and become like something cool and interesting now. Because like obviously this design is like super basic, and it'd be fun to see like what modern design like applies to it to make it like a decent like legendary creature these days. So yeah, if you got any thoughts like what Morinfen and Gallowbraid could be like in modern day Magic, like stick a comment below. I'd really like to hear some ideas about that, because I don't know too much about them lore wise. I think they are just like a pair of mooks that the Weatherlight crew just like kill like really early on in the story. But yeah, stick a comment below if you are if you are a fan of Morinfen and Gallowbraid. Anyway, moving on. So we've got a single hidden horror. I love this art for hidden horror. Like it looks like a xenomorph. I love it. It's such good art. But yeah, 1 and double black for 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, you either have to discard a creature card, or you sacrifice hidden horror. So yeah, it's okay, like 3 mana for a 4/4, discard a creature card, which is actually kind of where you want your creature cards in this deck, I say, because there is a reanimation theme. So this deck actually could have used maybe like another one of these, and then it's also just a big creature when it's down anyway. So yeah, that's I think a pretty good inclusion here. And then we've got 3 Necrotogs, so 1 and double black for a 1/2. Exile the top creature card in your graveyard from the game. So this is like, I saw mentioned it before in the last video with Miss Moon Griffin, but this is like a time in the game where like graveyard order like really matters. Like it doesn't. Technically, these days you are still meant to keep your graveyard in like a particular order of like in what things are. You can't like reorder your graveyard wherever you want. You can't just like randomly pick up your graveyard and like shuffle it or anything. These days it doesn't matter, but like back then there were a bunch of cards like this, or like the really classic Nether Spirit, that cared specifically like what order your graveyard was in. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of these effects in the deck. So yeah, Necrotog I think has actually got like a fair bit of potential here, because like that ability is completely free. It doesn't require any mana. It's at instant speed. If you load your graveyard with creatures, which you can do in this deck, there are options which we'll see later. This is a potential win condition here. You just win with Necrotog, and then just munch a bunch of things, and suddenly it's suddenly just got like +8/+8 out of nowhere, and just suddenly just hits for game. So yeah, real like a big threat in this deck. Actually, I think this is, I would say, probably the primary win condition. And a single Barrow Ghoul, so 1 black for a 4/4. During your upkeep, you have to exile the top creature card in your graveyard. From the you have to exile it, or you sacrifice Barrow Ghoul. I'm gonna actually guess, like I know I've said it a lot in these reviews, or like the old wording of like, oh, you have to bury it, which is it's technically not the same as sacrifice because it's a destroy effect. I think I'm almost 100% certain actually that all these got errata to be like sacrifice. It got updated. I'm sure someone will correct me otherwise, but yeah, I'm almost certain these got updated to be sacrifice. Because on Hidden Horror, actually, going back to it, that says discard a creature card or bury Hidden Horror, and I know for a fact that the updated, like the more modern word, like in 10th edition where it got reprinted, it was sacrifice Hidden Horror. So there we go. I've solved the mystery of like bury. So there we go. But anyway, yeah, Barrow cool. Obviously, it's like a super undercosted 4/4. And but the thing is, it's this paradox, isn't it? Because like ideally, you cast it early on. It's a big beta really early on in the game, but early on in the game, you're not going to have like a stacked graveyard to keep it around. So I suppose like it's more like a mid-game thing where it's still like an efficient play, like it's still a 4/4 for only 2 mana. But then you've got more stuff to like feed it and keep it around, I suppose. We've got single circling vultures, which is kind of very similar to Barrow Ghoul. So it's 1 black mana for a 3/2 flyer. During your upkeep, you have to exile the top creature card in your graveyard, or you sacrifice circling vultures. But then it has this extra ability, which feels very, very random to me, which is where you can just discard it from your hand. And it gives you no benefit. It's just like, if it's in your hand, you can discard it at instant speed if you want. And I can't think of a reason why. The only reason I think of it is so you can do it and then it's in your graveyard for all your other things that care about, exiling stuff at instant speed, like the Necrotog. Like if Circling Vultures is in your hand, you discard it instant speed, and then you eat it with Necrotog. And in which case, I think there just should have been more Circling Vultures in here to play to that theme. But yeah, I think it's an interesting card, just because of kind of how weird that ability feels. It kind of reminds me of Fairy Macabre from Shadowmoor, which was the you discard it instant speed, and then like it does it does the I think it was exile stuff, Fairy Macabre. It was like exile stuff from graveyards. But yeah, it always feels weird and very notable when like a card has like it's like you discard it from hand with no cost, and you essentially get an effect for free, and it always just feels very weird and out of place. But like obviously there are reasons to do it, at certain like deck building levels or strategic. Anyway, I'm rambling on about Circling Vultures. I think it's a cool weird little card. And then we have Zombie Scavengers, 2 and a black for a 3/1. Exile the top creature card in your graveyard to regenerate it, which is alright. It's free regeneration. Well, it's not free, is it? Because you have to get rid of a creature card. But yeah, it's alright. Better to have the ability and not need it than need it and not have it. A single Mischievous Poltergeist, 2 and a black for a 1/1, has flying, and you can pay 1 life to regenerate. This is okay. It's kind of like a bad Will-O-Wisp, I suppose. But yeah, it's alright, I suppose. 2 Fledgling Jin, 1 and a black for a 2/2 flyer, and during your upkeep it does 1 damage to you. Standard kind of like cheap, aggressively costed black creature at the time, I suppose, that's just going to do damage. It's like a baby Juzam Jin, I suppose, that's going to keep doing damage to you, but it's kind of undercosted for what it is. It's it's just it's like Black Windrake, isn't it, I suppose, with downside. And then Skulking Ghost, this has been in the deck before, and I sort of like went over it there. I think basically it's okay. It's like aggressively costed as a 2/1 flyer with like this very minimal drawback, I think. So yeah, I think it's okay. And then 3 Crypt Rats. These are absolute gems, I think. So 2 and a black for a 1/1. It does X damage to each creature and each player. Spend only black mana this way. So you've got like a little 1/1 here, which has like an inbuilt, basically like, I was going to say it's better than Earthquake and it's better than Hurricane because it does hit literally everything. And like back in the day, this was like prime like Spirit Link material. You'd whack Spirit Link on this, pop its ability, and just gain a bunch of life because it just did damage to everything. And it's like such an insane ability to have that it can just out of nowhere, just like, because it's not sorcery speed. It is just, and you can activate whenever you want. It's not like a death trigger or anything. It is just like, I just want my Crypt Rats to just like wipe the board now. I'm just going to do that. And you got 3 of them, which is just crazy. Yeah, so super good old card, I think. Really nice there's 3 of them in here. And we've got 2 Sewer Rats, just 1 black mana for 1/1. 1 black, pay 1 life, gets +1/+0 turn. You cannot spend more than 3 black this turn, this way each turn. So yeah, it's alright. I suppose it can go up to being a 4/1 if you want to sink that much like mana and life into it. I suppose again is the option is there if you need it, I suppose. But yeah, I think this is more like just graveyard fodder. Honestly, it's just a okay little 1-drop to have. It's not as good as Crypt Rats because those are the best rats. Those are the best ratty boys. And then just a few like random black creatures feel like kind of just thrown in here. So 2 Fallen Ascari, 1 the black for a 2/2 with flanking and it can't block. That's perfectly fine, I think, for a black creature at the time. Like, actually, I was going to say like it's better than just like a 2/2 for 2 that can't block. 'Cause that's Spineless Thug from like Mercadian Mass. This has at least got flanking. which is an upside. So yeah, this is okay, I think. Two Shadow Riders, 2 and double black for a 3/3 flanking. Again, I think that's perfectly okay. And then two lovely Necrotal, 2 and double black for a 2/1 first strike when it enters the battlefield. Bury a non-artifact, non-black creature. So yeah, just a kill spell on top of a 2/1 first striker. Really, really nice. I found out something a little interesting about Necrotal actually, because like this is completely off tangent, but like it's not going to show up in any more decks, so I'm not going to talk about it. But in later printings, like in 10th edition, because it was in that, and I think maybe like an M set, but definitely 10th edition. Its creature type is like human assassin. But interestingly, Necrotal, because you would think then it would just be like called like Assassin or something, but like its creature type is specifically Necrotal. They are meant to be like a type of Jinn or spirit or something that just takes this human-esque form. So there you go. It's a little bit of trivia there from the old Magic the Gathering wiki. They shouldn't be human assassins. They should be some sort of spirit or something. So there we go. Right, and then non-creature spells. This thing's where it get really, really spicy in this deck. So we've got two Buried Alive, which I think right off the bat, that's incredible for a deck that really cares about like the graveyard. So Buried Alive, 2 in the black, search your library up to 3 creature cards, just put them straight into your graveyard and then shuffle your library afterwards. So this helps like a bunch of your creatures. It is a shame it's at sorcery speed, because this would be fantastic for Necrotog. But yeah, really, really good. Especially in this deck, I think, which is the whole theme of like using the graveyard, either exiling stuff to like feed your kind of undercosted things, or as we got here with Necromancy, bringing stuff back. So Necromancy, we've had this in a previous deck before, and it's like this super, super good reanimation spell, like only like 3 mana. To reanimate anything from any graveyard, with again like no limitations on like maybe like color or cost or anything. It is just reanimate anything and it becomes an aura attached to it. It has like this super long, like in Oracle the rule text is absolutely insane. It's like animate dead, and if necromancy is destroyed, then the other creature, the creature gets destroyed as well. But like who cares, like you're reanimating literally anything for 3 mana, which is incredible. Obviously goes well with Buried Alive. You Buried Alive like Morinfen or something and then necromancy it, or even if it's just killing opponent's creatures and you're using necromancy on them that way. It's super, super good, and I really love there's 2 of them in here. And then I believe this is the other round of the deck, is Strands of Night. So 2 and double black, you pay 2 black and pay 2 life and sacrifice a swamp to just reanimate a creature from your graveyard, which again I think is just really good. It's just repeatable reanimation. Like it is obviously a bit costly that you have to sacrifice a swamp and pay some life, but I think it's still really, really good. It's just the fact you can just keep doing this, bringing stuff back. Yeah, I think it's super, super good. There is like I do feel there's a bit of a paradox in the deck though, because like you've got all these, you've got Necromancy, you've got Strands of Night, which obviously care about reanimating stuff, but you've got so many cards that care about exiling stuff from your graveyard as well. So it kind of feels like it's pulling in 2 different directions. Maybe that's just kind of the feeling I get. We've got single Infernal Tribute. Actually, this might be the other rare. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, triple black enchantment. 2 sacrifice card, sacrifice a permanent, draw a card. Yep, that's just fine, isn't it? And then a single Shattered Crypt, X and double black. Return X target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, lose X life. So like a mass like raised dead effect. And again, it does feel like it's going against itself, because you have got things that care about stuff already being in your graveyard. I guess you could do Buried Alive and then do this, I suppose, to like get the stuff you've just put in there back into hand. That's a possible, I suppose. And you do obviously have things that sacrifice, like to Infernal Tribute, and you can get them back again with Shattered Crypt. Yeah, I suppose that's a possible, but again, it sort of again feels like it's pulling in different directions here. And then we've got 2 Spinning Darkness, 4 and double black, so super expensive. But it has this extra, as an alternate casting cost, where you can exile the top 3 black cards in your graveyard instead of paying its casting cost. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like it has this. You're either using the graveyard either to reanimate stuff. You should either be stacking it to reanimate stuff or stacking it to pay like costs like this, I suppose. But it does 3 damage to non-black creature and gain 3 life, which is obviously expensive at 6 mana. But I think exiling 3 black cards instead to get this is actually like a really good deal. Like getting potentially casting this for no mana is, I think, really good too, because it's a time when creatures are smaller, so 3 damage is fairly significant, and also getting some life out of it is also obviously also all right. And then 2 Dark Banishing, like just a classic kill spell, and 2 Drain Life. You've got some things in here that care about like spending life or something, so it's a way of getting it back. So yeah, both of these I think are perfectly good inclusions. Drain life obviously works super well here because we're playing mono black. And then 24 swamps. There we go. So let's talk about what could have been maybe in the deck. Again, kind of like the Air Forces deck, I didn't think there was really anything in Weatherlight as a set that could maybe go in here that makes the deck better, honestly. I thought what was here is actually, pretty good. Maybe Abyssal Abyssal Gatekeeper over the other two. So it's 1 black for a 1/1, and if it dies, basically everyone sacrifices a creature. So it's like a innocent blood or diabolic edict effect. And that could be okay because then it's like it's a creature that wants to die. You get into the graveyard where you kind of want creatures. You sacrifice a creature as well, so it goes into your grave. So you got up 2 creatures in the graveyard where you want stuff, and your opponent sacrificed something as well. So that could have fit in here, maybe, I suppose. Maybe instead of like the rats, not the crypt rats because they're amazing, but the other ones, the sewer rats, I think they maybe could have been cut for this. Odilic Wraith was a possible as well, which is just like another like decent-ish black creature. 3 black for a 2/2 with Swamp Walk, and if it deals combat damage to a player, they actually. Oh, I don't know. Again, if this is going to be combat damage or if it just damages. So if you did find a way of making it deal indirect damage, if the ability would work, but they discard a card whenever it damages them. So yeah, this could have worked. Suppose like it gets through and it damages them, and they discard maybe a creature, and then you use Necromancy, possibly, maybe. And then Raise 2 Thrats is 2/1 with Fear, which again could have fit in here, I suppose. But like I said, I think what's here was actually perfectly fine. So yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. It definitely feels a lot different to the other mono black deck that we had back in Mirage, like the Spirit of the Night one. Even though there's obviously quite a lot of overlap in some cards here, but like it definitely has like its own different feel. It's definitely more like about using the graveyard like for reanimation or like to pay costs and stuff. So yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. So yeah, I think overall it's all right. It's all right, basically. But yeah, if you have any thoughts or stories or comments, opinions about the deck or any of the cards in it, stick a comment downstairs. I'll give those a read. But yeah, I'll be back next time to look at another Weatherlight MTGO deck. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.